asked the same question about commercial versus residential. And, a lot of the national labs have studied the building performance dashboards that the property managers can use who understand kilowatt hours. And on average, where they've been deployed, they've saved 50% on energy across the board.
So part of my work involves working with venture capital investments in green building technology. And y'all will be happy to hear that there is technology out there now that's being developed and is currently being used, not necessarily in this country, but sometime last year somebody actually gave me a device. It was something that they had already used in Britain successfully, and they're trying to deploy it here in the United States. And it's for residential use, which was not necessarily something that I was focusing on because we have a large commercial building portfolio, but I found it intriguing. But I didn't have the 5 hours of time that it took. So I gave it to my colleague, Nick, who then took it to his home, and he said it took him about 4 or 5 hours, but what it does is it does measure. It's a small laptop, you put it in your kitchen, but it does require wiring it into your hard electrical system, and it measures your largest appliance use for the television, the refrigerator, the oven, the dishwasher, what have you. And it does give you real-time feedback on how much kilowatt hours you're actually using on a much lesser and simpler and dumber level, which we found to be more effective in our house. My husband actually, is always looking for ways to conserve energy. Found these plugs that you can use. You can literally, it's an interface between your outlet and you use it for your largest appliances. The laptop, not the refrigerator. The laptop, the flat screen TV, if you have one, your media systems, what have you. And what it does is, during those times when it cycles, you're always connected at some point in time for these certain utilities, for certain appliances. It will actually scale back the electrical power when you least need it. So your laptop, your desktop computer, for instance.
Yeah, that's actually the technology that we were sort of working with.
It required an initial investment of something in order. It wasn't a lot, but it adds up of $25, $30 per unit. I think that the payback was was a year, perhaps.
Right. So you actually hit on two really important points. Is the initial cost of some of these devices really needs to be low, especially with low-income housing projects. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that we need to sort of, as a community, learn from the problems of programmable thermostats. A lot of people take the programmable thermostat, put it in their homes, and status quo bias. We just go with whatever has been pre-programmed into the thermostat. And so with some of these devices, you actually need to spend a few hours trying to figure out what should the status quo be for my behavior. And people don't do that. So we need to sort of creatively program these before it actually even reaches the home so that the default is always the greenest option, because people may not change the default.
Shahzeen, I think one or two more questions.
Okay.
All of these feedback mechanisms, seeing that they're one part of the solution, but it's only the first part, it alerts people that there's a problem, but then they have to be educated about what to do about the problem. I mean, you may not know that you can turn the dishwasher off. There's some education aspects to this, and once you have the feedback, that's great, but then you have to teach people what to do with that information.
Right. So let me go to the next slide.
You have 5 minutes to finish up.
Oh wow. So Mina.
So pick your bets.
Okay. So let me talk a little bit about O-Power. So O-Power was able to reduce electricity use in households by 2%, just by providing feedback and letting people do whatever they wanted in their homes. And that actually translates to, this is just a back of the envelope calculation that I did, to removing 2.2 million cars off the street per year, which is really huge. So one thing that we talked a little bit about is how can we increase these 2% savings and sustain that change. So I wanted to sort of touch as to what motivates people, and this sort of leads to Tanya Singer's presentation. So we talked a little bit about social dilemmas, where social dilemmas are individual rationality leads to collective irrationality. And so individual rationality leads to collective irrationality. It's a deficient equilibrium because, yeah. So some of the social dilemmas that I wanted to study was how do you get individuals to donate to NPR, donate blood, get vaccinated, increase funding for public education, increase funding for public housing, conserve energy in the home, and a whole variety of these other social dilemmas, because it's always in my best interest not to do it. Like, I don't want to donate blood. You know, it's scary. It's an injection, or it's like a needle. I don't want to do it. Similarly, NPR. I can listen to NPR. You know, there's a lot of people in this room that probably listen to NPR that do not donate to NPR. We can all do it, right? But what are the reasons why people do not do it? What motivates people not to do it? And so there are a variety of reasons why people defect in social dilemmas. And the term defect comes from economics, where you end up in that lower quadrant. You do not cooperate. So cooperation and defection sort of are on two separate extremes of this sort of equation. So one reason why people do not do some of these behaviors is because of individual rationality. It might be economically beneficial for me not to donate to NPR. I just can't, you know, $100 per month, that's quite a bit. Diffusion of responsibility. There's so many other people that listen to it. They can do it. I don't need to do it. Anonymity. So I'm anonymous, so I can free ride on your sacrifice. I don't want to be a sucker. So if I donate and all of you guys are listening to NPR, I don't want to be a sucker. I'm a sucker if I were to donate in that case. I'm pro-self rather than pro-social. So I might care just about myself rather than everyone else in this community. I don't want to feel like a drop in the bucket. I have single action bias because I'll do my one pro-social thing and then I'm off the hook. You know, I gave money to homeless people, I'm off the hook. I don't need to care about these other problems. There's a finite pool of effort worry. So there's only so many things at one particular point that I can think about, that I can worry about. I lack group identity. And finally, is it really useful for me to donate to NPR? Is my donation really going to matter? So what I wanted to study with this particular experiment is what are the main motivations for people or for individuals to defect in these different social dilemmas? Is it that they want to free ride? Is it that they're afraid of being a sucker or a drop in the bucket? And are motivations for defection based on the situation, or are they based on the individual? And what I mean by that is me as a person. Am I always defecting because I'm just a free rider in every single social dilemma that I meet? Or is it that I defect because of free riding in one social dilemma, and I defect in another social dilemma because I feel like I'm a drop in the bucket, versus other reasons? So let me just show you some preliminary data. So these are the different dilemmas that I asked people about. So NPR, conserve energy, tax increase for public education, buy green energy, tax increase for low-income housing, and blood donation. And across the top, you have the reasons why. And they weren't phrased this way in the experiment. If you want to know more about the experiment, you can talk to me offline. So what I wanted to figure out is what are the main reasons why people defect in these different social dilemmas. And what you find is just looking, and these are ranks from 1 to 5. So just look at the ones that are in color. Those are the ones that are most important, for the most important reasons why people defect in social dilemmas. So free riding is really important. So basically the ability to free ride on other people's actions is really important reason why people defect. Another one is don't want to be a sucker. So if you can make people not feel like they're a sucker in a particular situation, they'll be less likely to defect. And finally, usefulness is questioned. So if I were to do this, is it really a useful idea for me to do? So these are sort of some of the reasons that we need to pay attention to when it comes to how to decrease defection in social dilemma situations. Yeah, I'm sort of running out of time. All right. Thank you.